Hold on.
So the audio. Okay.
Oh, there it is.
Oh,
Yes, we're good.
perfect.
Okay, so that's it.
Alrighty. Oh, very nice.
Thank
Um, maybe you should come work for us.
you. Are you hiring?
We are. No, we are.
What's the pay? Not just kidding.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you were able to solve it. I'm very happy you were able to solve it.
On September 11th, 2023. There's been some communication since that time, but really no action has been taken. Russell's here. Russell, you want to speak about the property and what the owner would like to do?
This owner has been sick with cancer and, he does want to save the house. He told me he wants to save it. So I've got bids here to fix the foundation, do the electrical from that fire in there and the painting. So I've got some bids here.
Well, you don't need.
You don't, okay, okay, anyway, but if you could give him a 6-month extension.
We'll probably didn't declare it substandard.
Well, it's already been.
All right, then we keep it going 6 months.
Okay.
To at least to get a safe time to get a building. And then, as long as the permit doesn't lapse. You know,
Well, I told him that he had to get on it and get it taken care
and
of.
if it does, if the permit is not acquired or the permit lapses, then staff will ask the council to approve the motion that the city may proceed with demolition.
I sold him this house 35 years ago. So.
Time to fix it up.
That's done.
Okay, all right, don't forget the permit, we provided on the complaints house and almost got in trouble, we have to.
I'll get the permit. Thank you.
Well, you don't want to sell it like it is?
I've asked him to sell it.
Yeah.
I've had me to buy it and fix it up. So I'll ask him again. So he has other properties in these other small towns around Corpus Christi, but with his health the way it is, he can't keep on. So I've been more or less boarding that house up, taking care of the grass, cleaned it all out. And
You're ready for a sales commission now.
I think I'm overdue.
It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or?
Yes, that's what it is. It had a 3rd bedroom, they closed the garage and they put a full bath in there. I mean, the plumbing is there.
I'm sure it'll sell pretty quick. It's not losing it.
I would think on the corner.
Yeah.
Okay, thank y'all.
551 will close the public hearing. With the second, and 2, consider take action to property previously declared substandard and following public hearings on September 11th.
The staff's recommendation is that council find that 121 Madison that was previously declared substandard. Following the hearing on the same date, September 2023, and for resolve that the property owners be allowed a certain amount of time to council for notification to obtain a building permit for the renovation. No permit is acquired or the permit lapses. The city may proceed with demolition and place it into the property. So I think Derek was recommending like 3 months to get the permit, and then if the permit's good for 6 months, it can be extended as long as there's activity on the property. But that's up to council. When we get 3 months to 6 months, we actually get it.
It makes it easier to do it by days. Or by days, like 90 days.
90 days, 3 months to get it from? Just
To get a permit, yeah.
Wait to the end and you get another.
Well, permit's good, permit's good for 6 months.
Why would it take 3 months just to get it from?
Because you may need engineering plans.
Yeah,
so
you gotta have some
gotta
plans,
have
you
some
can't just
plans.
go get a permit, you gotta have a, like, what you're gonna do. He's got started in the process.
I've never seen it, yeah.
Well, there's a frustration on my part because there's some, on Commerce Street, there's one across from the school district office, just, I'm sitting there and there are places all over town that are sitting there and we just, we just kind of, I'm tired of our talking. I'm ready for us to do something.
Well, that's why we're doing it.
Well, I want to see it a little speedier. I'd like to see it a little speedier instead of, just, we can talk these things to death. And then nothing ever gets done, and then people come to town, well, we don't wanna move here because it's such a dirty, ugly little town, and da. You got all these houses and whatever.
I was gonna say, but the administration's been coming every month with new houses.
And I mean,
That's
and
good.
I know we wanna limit the number we bring each time because it can be very lengthy, so we can consider making a special meeting where we bring a whole bunch of them.
Well, tonight at over at the funeral home, a guy that lives over on the 4th Street over in Lynn Haven. Came and talked to me because he was upset because of the fact that when we went in there and the city's gonna owe him only thousands of dollars because they took the people to pour down the shed in the back. He wants all that stuff, it's like. It's just one of those days,
Motion on this house, we'll start, we'll accept the rest of it with Cody, which then you can start to work on your other.
So you want to propose 90 days?
You're 30, but maybe, but okay, 9
By
days.
60 or 90? 60.
60.
Let's go with 60.
Well, I say that though, because we've already had a public one, so, but 60 would have been fair.
60 days?
I say 60.
Yeah, I'm saying.
He had the whole motion.
Yeah.
Read it. Read the motion.
First one, okay. So if the reserved property owner payers fill out 60 days for notification to obtain a building permit for the renovation, and if no permit is required, the permit lapse, the city may proceed with demolition of the Pennsylvania property.
That's the motion, we have a second.
Yes.
Motion is second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. When we put same sign. None opposed, motion passes. Right, move on into item 3, conduct public hearing for the city for the Lavaca Code of Ordinance, chapter 12, the research, standard section 12, 291, noticing indeed following properties, 413 Benavides, 304 South Juanita Street, 423 South Juanita, 304 South Juanita Street, 1715 Palm Street, and 509 Bernard Street.
If we can take this one of us at a time, that's it works for the minutes better.
One at a time.
I mean, you're calling the public
Okay, we'll
hearing.
do 423 South Benavides Street first.
And Mr. Navarro.
Mr. Navarro here.
Yes.
Mr. Navarro.
You can come here.
There's some recently taken photographs of the property, and a copy of the recent inspection. It's on page 19 in your packet.
These, we would be declaring for the swim crowd, and then, give them time to be.
I mean,
Navarro?
I have nothing to say. I mean, he bought the property about 16 years ago with the intention of investing in,
obviously building something there, but we've been kind of waiting on the town to grow a little bit before we, we invest in, it's growing now and obviously we're here, so maybe it's, it's time to start, what I don't know is, we would like a little time, because I don't know if we want to remodel or tear down and build new, so, just some time to do our due diligence on,
What we have to do probably is declare it substandard, and if you come back and we'll give you a certain time period to obtain your permit, do your plans and obtain a permit. And you'll have 6 months to take action.
Yeah, to either renovate or demolish.
Right.
We'll have to work with our code department, right?
Ooh, so,
Right.
that's quite.
Shaking personally, it's so easy.
So that's.
Is that the first time this was?
Yes.
Yes.
I've talked to the building inspector before, and we had the fire department go in there and, about 5 years ago, they thought it, because it looks really bad, but it's pretty solid. They went in there and they said,
I think it looks
weary
like
about-
maybe some of
So we'll get rid of the termite again. They don't-
and the stairs remain the main thing, so we boarded up the stairs, so no kids or anything would be, going up the stairs.
What, did you talk about code enforcement just recently?
No, this was about 5 years ago. We were given a letter and
Did no one call or did talk to you at all?
I don't think that they had my information on file or anything. I think that's why besides the address, because they did mail.
Yeah,
and
and
then-
in the letter, we had sent them our phone number. But we have no way to contact them other than.
We do try to contact them verbally first.
If we have information, but most of us, all we have.
The last one was to try to contact them.
Well, the problem is all we have is the information that's on app.
We might have overlooked that letter because we did receive, like I said, a letter 5 years ago from the inspector and we called him and, we dealt with him directly and. But this time, we might have just overlooked the mail.
No.
So, just so deal with something and.
Yeah, be sure to give all your information. Go to enforcement office, Sarah. and Ray. Once that's done, we'll probably have another hearing to determine how long you're gonna need before you need a permit.
I was also told that there's no zoning specifically here in Cleveland, correct?
Lavaca.
I mean, in Lavaca, sorry.
Only, but there are land use units.
So there's,
It's unfortunate.
okay, yeah, so you just have to talk to him and seeing what we can do there, on that property.
Certain code aspects you apply that.
Okay. Maybe.
No RV park.
No, no.
I was gonna say the same thing. No RVs or trailer parks,
Generally have to be residential.
generally.
So you wanna go ahead and take action?
Yeah, but
We're gonna do one at a time.
it does better for the record.
We don't get confused.
You're gonna close the public hearing on the
it's not like he's a. Long time.
It's time to make some.
Yeah, and they gotta figure out whether to demolish it or to. And come back.
You did the first motion, right? With Dan.
You agree with that motion, 6 months? Yeah, that's your main motion.
So we're gonna say 120 days.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna end it anytime.
So we're gonna-
180 days. We discussed it.
180.
Yeah.
Okay.
The motion in the second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Any opposed, motion passes. Okay. To 304 Juanita Street.
In your packet is some photographs of the report South Juanita. It's an old.
So we have to.
Yeah.
Oh, the public hearing at 6:04. I was already having another meal. 6:04 meal.
No, what time?
We're starting at the public hearing is open at 6 p.m. on 304 South Juanita Street.
And yeah, Mayor Council, there is in the packet is some photographs, recent photographs taken through South Juanita. And an inspection checklist that was done recently. There's an outbuilding, I think that's the third photograph you see here. That
It's actually over the property line and is in danger of falling into the neighbor's kitchen.
You're pushing up against the fence.
yeah, so this is even more urgent than the lower one itself. Clearly, the whole thing needs to go. And we have not had any direct communication with these property owners. I know, Manny did get a phone call today from someone that knew. Aware of the people. And we had done some.
So the title on this property is not good, but that's why the law provides that as long as we're providing notice to the people that are in record title according to the appraisal district, we are safe. But it's the gentleman who owned it is passed away. The other half interest remains in another lady, but his half interest, they tried in 2012 to file an heirship affidavit to give it to another woman, but it's incomplete. The taxes have stopped being paid for 2023 on the real estate. The mobile home is known as, it hasn't been attached to the real estate. And it's also in those same two people's names, Joaquin Resendez and Maria Teresa Ramirez, per the Texas Department of Community and Housing Affairs. And for the mobile home, the taxes are unpaid for 22 and 20. I believe the property notices have been sent to the address on file. And I would put a short time frame on this one because I don't expect anything to be done.
Yeah, we were looking at
And
60
it's
days.
terrible.
60 days after notification to demolish the outbuilding and move for Yeah, I mean, we can demolish it. I don't know that we need, again, that if they don't do it within the 60 days, the city may proceed with that.
60 days, is that a minimum?
I think, yes.
Actually, I think it's 30 days. Because we did that on the one on 35.
Oh, you're right.
I think 30 days is the minimum.
We haven't had any contact with this.
No.
Okay, 30 days.
They must know about it because somebody contacted me.
Somebody that knows them. It wasn't them, but they didn't know.
Anyone here to speak on behalf of that property? Therefore, one to speak. If not, we're gonna close public hearings for wait. Go to council action. We want to make a motion that the property owners. We allow 30 days of notification to demolish the outbuilding.
And
And
We allow 30 days. Needs to move it or demolish it, and like, the only not to consider affiliation with this being the property. Second that. Second. On favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Right, we'll move into, one, excuse me. 1713 Palm Street.
Huh? That's behind the lights.
Oh.
he's else.
Public hearing at 16.
Yeah, we did, there, in your packet, there's a recent photograph of 1713. Along with a recent inspection. We have, received some communication from the property owner. We have trouble seeing the property mode, and he explains that he's, I guess, first we have to do that in the area. We started to reach out to local buyers in the area in order to sell it. As it's pretty hard for him to keep the property up. So I think it looks like his intention. Right, is to try to sell it.
Yeah, so he's actually, I don't know if you managed to put that other email in as well. He sent us another email this morning. I do believe I sent it to Lorena. It has in there that he's also in contact with contractors to either decide whether or not to tear it down or sell and or remodel and then sell, depending on which is the most cost effective and beneficial.
So again, we would be just clearing it substandard. And then it's something. Allowing the property owner bears a certain amount of time to
very clear, and they live in California.
either obtain a permit for renovation or.
Is there anyone here to speak on 1713 Palm Street? Hearing no one, we will close the public hearing in 60.
No, this is.
I stopped. Now we can proceed with council action. And for the public hearing in 60. We have a motion.
Yes, I have a motion. And I think we should give him like 60 days to do something. He knows it needs to be done, he's been over here. It's not. 60 days. And I need that all because he's in California.
Give out 60 days of notification and
Or
Or
what is required for the permanent lapses and proceeding with demolition and bus. Down.
60 days.
60 days. Do I have a second?
That's too long? No, I don't think that's.
I think that's just that. Yes, yes. Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. To 509 Bernard Street, we'll open the public hearing at 6:13 P.M.
Mayor Council, are some recent photographs of 509 Old Street, as well as a recent inspection report. We have had some communication from the property owner. They indicate that their plan is to demolish them and all other structures on the property. They have spoken to a local contractor. They're working out an agreement to demolish the home and other structures. They're requesting extension of time so they can carry out their plans to demolish the homes. We are requesting, allow until January 2025 to complete the project. So I think we need to say,
90 days.
when days to get the permit.
Or 60 days to get a permit.
And then the permit's good for 6 months.
I'm doing it, motion.
We're gonna see.
Oh, we gotta get out of there.
Motion.
Well, we gotta get out of here.
I know we got it. Oh, okay. 6:15 P.M. Closing the public hearing.
But if they get a permit, it's just gonna be.
They got 6 months.
Is that January 1 or January 3?
January 2025, it could be. But again, yes, the permit is good for 6
For 6 months, so if he gets it within the 60 days, which is what? October, November, then he'll have up until. 6 months? No, it's not that long. 60 days.
To get a permit.
Motion, demolish, property owners be allowed 60 days after notification to the executive demolition. No demolition permit is required of the demolition permit lapses or city proceeding. Demolition place on the property. Take a motion.
Yes.
Get a second. Second. Motion and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
That's all we got.
Combine. Good now to agenda item 5, consider second and final reading of an ordinance approving annual budget from City of Lavaca, Texas, adopting the budget document from fiscal year September 1st, 2024 to September 30th, 2025.
Mayor and council, this is the second reading of the budget ordinance. Legislation requiring specific input on the vote to adopt the budget. I have divided recommended language consent.
Okay, I move to adopt the fiscal year 2024-2025 annual budget as presented by the city manager.
Everybody.
We need to have a second and a
Second on the motion. Second. Any more?
Right.
Take an individual vote. Yes. Aye. Yes. I think. We have a vote of 5-0. Second final reading of the second final reading of the ordinance. We move to wait.
You want me to clarify what we talked about before the meeting, while we're on this agenda?
Well, nobody's ahead, but we're gonna do it. We can go ahead.
Yeah, so, so that's the matter. No, no. So, I mean, the fact is, we have to, there is no way to have the budget ordinance ready August meeting. There's just, and you can't even have a budget hearing before the last weekend, actually almost the last day in August per law. So the law kind of supersedes our charter in this as far as when the calendar works. So even though our charter says we can't adopt an ordinance at a special meeting, whatever, it says we have to adopt ordinances at regular meetings. The time in the tax code and local government code do not allow for that. And because they conflict, then I believe we're authorized to adopt it because it supersedes the city charter. Now, Jack and I talked about before the meeting that we can always come back in October and ratify. But we absolutely, by tax code and local government code, we're going to be in this situation every year because we went to one meeting a month. And so, that's just the way it has to be. But we can ratify, we can still put it on the agenda in the consent to ratify it again.
Yeah. Why can't we have it in October and in August?
Because, okay, so if you look at the tax code and the tax calendar, the truth and taxation calendar, the certified roll doesn't get to us until like, yes. And you cannot adopt a public hearing before 1 month later. This year it was on August 28th that we couldn't have the public hearing before August 28th. And so if you look at the truth and taxation calendar, you're prohibited by having it earlier than that date. Wow. But that's in our charter, isn't it? That it's October. And every city is October.
Probably should. So, if we don't get it for the name for tax thing, say, August, that's going to be a different time.
No, that's the adoption stuff. You can't start having your public hearings before that.
Yeah. You can have one reading. It's in, the state allows for readings.
Yeah, so that's what Lashes does. They have one reading for budget
A lot of cities.
and tax.
But we need to, in the charter, we haven't, we just skipped it over the last few years, but to be safe about the right. So that they're happy, that would be a challenge.
Yeah, and I don't think the challenge could be successful because I think
It's doubtful.
it's in conflict with the tax code and local government.
Nobody in the past, we've done this for years, and nobody in the past is. Never. Be safe. Okay. Figure out where we're at. How we did the vote on it. Consider ratification of property tax increases reflected in the budget.
Mayor and Council, and edit to the local government section of 27.0017, when adopting a budget that will require raising more revenue from property taxes than in the previous year. A separate vote of the governing body to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the budget is required. This vote is in addition to and separate from the vote to adopt the budget or a vote to set the tax rate. Staff has provided the recommended.
Yeah, so I'm going to ratify the property tax revenue increase reflected in the 2024-2025 budget.
This is done after the first reading, and all this is saying is just once.
Because if we have an increase.
Yeah.
It's like our record.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second, notifying property tax increases reflected in the budget. All in favor, say aye. Okay. All opposed, same sign. And opposed, motion passes. Let's move to agenda item number 7, please look at final reading ordinance as 3-24 fixing the tax rate and tax levy for the city of Lavaca, Texas for the year 2024.
Mayor and council, this is the second reading, setting the tax rate. We have specific language and it has to be record vote and there's 2 following.
Okay, so again, I'll move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of the tax rate of 0.800, which is effectively a 4.04% increase in the tax rate.
It's 300.
300.
300% change.
That's after taking the box. Okay, we have a motion in a second. We gotta do the- Oh, we all have a second. Do a second. Third. You do the record vote. Justin and I. Right. We have 4 votes aye, 1 vote nay. Ordinance passes in the second reading. All right, so I move to adopt a maintenance and operations rate of 0.6743. Okay, motion second. We get it ready. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Still same sign. Opposed, motion passes. Yeah, okay, finally, and we're raising all these rates just to keep paying our bills. The letter saying completely right.
Yeah, we gave the maintenance and operations dollars for the city. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll move to adopt an interest and exceeding rate of 0.1257. Motion, second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Opposed, motion passes. Then to agenda item number 8. Consider budget amendment number GF 002 for the 2023-2024 fiscal year for fire department function.
Mayor and council, the city had the opportunity to accept a grant from the Texas A&M Forest Service to fund additional personal protective equipment for the fire department. If council approves this grant, it will be necessary to recognize the additional revenue and the additional expense that will be added to the city budget for fiscal year 2024. The financial implications are accepting the grant will require the city to use $2,000 from the current savings from the fire department's protective clothing line items. Staff's recommendation is to approve the budget amendment number BS 002. This is what is this? So essentially, the last time that this grant was accepted, it was additional $2,000, so it had to be added to the budget. It's 20,000. That's their original budget. This is what the same. They have a $20,000 budget. Yes, right. Separate from this. Yes. Asking for 2,000. Yes.
So 2,000 is part of the
$20,000.
$40,000 line.
The original budget was $20,000, so they're essentially, they're saving, they have savings in that $20,000 right now.
Two, so they say it's.
Yes.
Eco baggies. What's the motion? To approve the accept the grant.
The budget adjustment for the budget.
Motion to approve the budget. And then a motion in second, but, yeah, there is 02, that's adjourned. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Number 9, your presentation from the market regarding the report evaluation, consideration, and overview of city's water and wastewater utility system, and consider award a commitment for financial assistance for the effective water development board. On the wastewater project. Where do you want to put it?
Yeah, Mayor Council, it's been a while back, but, yeah, okay, it's been here. We authorized, RBC Capital to do a study to consider, evaluation of the wastewater utility system. With the idea, option to consider selling water and wastewater utilities. It took a while to get this done. We did receive this done. I think it was.
Correct.
And it's, I apologize, I did not get this back to council soon after that. We did discuss it in generality. On depth, and obviously I owe to council to come back and give go in depth with the results of this study that was done. In light of the work that's needing to be done with the wastewater treatment plant and elections moving forward with that. So I've invited Dusty Kramer to come and give us a review of this report that they did for us with the evaluation of water and wastewater utility, and then talk about this option, water development, learning, improvement standards.
Thank you very much. Again, Dusty Trailer with RBC Capital Markets. Together with my partner, Robert Henderson, we have the honor and privilege of representing the city of Port Lavaca as financial advisor. I think you all have a copy of the presentation materials that we get prepared. And this is the exact same report from February. So I want to walk you through some of these slides and the presentation material, just discussing some of the steps that we had taken in the evaluation process and just what it means in terms of potential consideration of looking at selling your utility system assets. So if you look with me on page number 1, we just kind of do a brief description of the city's utility system assets, starting with wastewater department, serving approximately 4,323 customers or connections, and maintaining over 3,840 connections and 40 miles of sewer line. City, of course, operates and maintains the Lynn Bayou wastewater treatment plant, which is a 2 million gallon per day plant, and 20 lift stations. Then then the city, of course, obviously owns its water distribution system, serving 4,642 customers, maintaining 4,300 connections, and 65 miles of water lines, 2 elevated storage tanks. City, of course, is responsible for the installation and maintenance of new water taps, meter sets, line repair, replacement, main line installation, meter reading, service system for connections and disconnects. Moving over to page number 2, we just did a brief look at your top 10 customers in each of your systems, both the water and the sewer. Just a couple of takeaways here. In both instances, these top 10 customers are pretty consistent. Most show up on both lists. The other takeaway from this top 10 list is it demonstrates that it's not like the city has a large concentration of just one big user of the system. Your top 10 customers represent a very small portion of your revenues. So that represents a diversified system, a diversified customer base which is a good fact pattern. And then looking more broadly at sector overview of publicly owned water and sewer utility systems, just kind of hit a few of these bullet points. There are over 50,000 water utilities nationwide, and of those, 15% are investor owned or privately held, meaning that 85% are truly owned by the municipalities that own them. So most water and sewer utility systems are truly owned by the city or municipal entity that they serve. The majority of water and sewer system utility acquisition activity involves the acquisition of financially and CapEx challenged systems, small to medium, private and publicly owned utility systems by larger investor owned utilities. Yeah. I don't think that they're a municipality, right? They're more of an agency of a governmental, a larger governmental agency. I would say they're probably still in the 85%. It's just slightly different because because GDRA is not a privately held entity, it's a state agency. Correct. So predominance of the entities that are involved in acquisitions are entities that are financially challenged, or entities from an operational standpoint are smaller to medium-sized systems that may lack their own economies of scale or administrative and operational means to meet increasingly stringent water standards. Total transactions for 2024 was expected to be near the 2022 value, exceeding prior years. Through November of 23, 5 large transactions have been completed nationally for a total value of $107 million. In 22, 11 large water and wastewater acquisitions by investor-owned utilities were completed, involving total over $540 million. Page 4, we just kind of provide you with a map of the major water and sewer systems nationwide, and the percentage in each state where there's private ownership. We talked about 85% municipally owned, and look in Texas, 5% of water and sewer utilities in Texas are privately owned. So that number in Texas is skewed even higher. 95% are owned by a public entity. And then we further break that down between water and sewer down at the bottom of the page. 84% of water utilities are publicly owned, 98% of wastewater are publicly owned. And again, over here to the far right, we talk a little bit about, well, one thing I want to point out, large water systems, if we talk about percentage of, we talk about 85% versus 15% and this and that. But we got to remember, large water systems represent approximately 1% of the total water systems, but serve approximately 50% of the population. So there is a skewing when we talk about 85 and 90%. There's a skewing that happens in terms of the services, right? Large systems really stretch out the numbers quite a bit there. Then we get into a map here that shows publicly traded or investor-owned water utilities across the country. Specifically here in Texas, it seems like we've got about 5 major players that play in the publicly traded investor-owned space. Essential Utilities, SJW Group, which is San Jose Water Group, California Water Services, Eversource or Aquarion. And then the next page, we look at those that are truly privately owned, not publicly traded companies. In Texas, we've got those players. Of course, I know you guys are all familiar with Undyne, that being one that plays here in the state of Texas. And then Then on page number 7, we provide a list of a number of transactions across the country that our research guys were able to find that took place in terms of utility systems being sold. One of those on this list occurred here in the state of Texas, the Southern Oaks water system. That system is a little bit of an outlier. It's a very small system. Only has 740 connections. The purchase price of that system was $3.3 million at an average price per customer of $4,500. Looking down at the bottom, we kind of put together some medians and averages for these various transactions. The average purchase price of a utility system on this list was about $63.1 million, and with a customer count of 11,550, and the price per customer on that average was a little over 6,100, almost 6,200 per customer. The medians, you look at a median for water system, it's $16 million, $28 million for wastewater, and then the numbers of connections for a water system, the median was 3,000. Customer connections for wastewater was 5,800. And then those prices per customer, what they ultimately worked out to be is about 6,600 per customer for water systems and 5,100 for wastewater. The next page, page 8, just really kind of walks through a little bit of the process of working with and ultimately going through the process if you ultimately decided to sell the utility system, what the process to sell that system would ultimately look at. Basically, step number 1, just preparation of timetables for deliverables, identifying the likely buyers, developing a marketing strategy, preparing a confidential information memorandum, providing some due diligence information to the market. And step 2, going through the marketing process, connecting and contacting potential buyers to solicit interest, distributing that confidential information memorandum, et cetera. And then 3, really kind of get into the process where the city begins to select bidders to move forward in the process, selecting parties to receive management presentations, allowing folks to actually kind of get into a document data room, et cetera. And then execution on step 4, selecting the preferred bidders, negotiating with them, allowing them the opportunity to conduct their due diligence, executing the agreements, dealing with the regulatories, right? You have to deal with utility commission, TCEQ, et cetera, and then ultimately closing. So part of the process that we undertook is just looking at a preliminary value of the system. And our folks utilized 3 different methodologies to kind of look at the value of the system. But before we get into those, Texas is included in a group of 12 states that have adopted fair market value acquisition mechanisms. Basically, that just means that it's a rate mechanism used for, it's a standardization of methodologies to use in the sale of municipal utilities. Basically, the application includes the establishment of fair market value using 3 different appraisals, 3 different sources. Both the buyer and the seller agree to use the fair market valuation process. And those methodologies include an income approach, which involves using discounted cash flow methods, looking at the cash flows of the system and applying just financial metrics to that to come up with a value. There's a market approach and then a cost approach. So we then get into the basic types of approaches. I already mentioned the income approach using a discounted cash flow method, basically looking at and discounting back anticipated future cash flows to determine the value of the asset. So on page number 11, what our guys came up with, utilizing that discounted cash flow method for the Port Lavaca system. One thing I want to point out is in all of these numbers that we looked at, this assumed the sale of all of the utility assets that you own, selling all of them, 100% sale. If you guys were to decide to do that, you might decide not to sell all 100%. You might keep your water and sell your wastewater, what have you. So this looks at all 100%. Only in the asset value method, we did look at, some of that stuff. Sort of the base discounted cash flow method. We used a rate growth or a growth in the system of about 5% annually and a discount rate of 7%. Now, I want to point out, capitalization rates are typically between 4% and 6%. However, given the smaller nature, smaller population size, and relatively flat customer accounts, a discount rate of 7% was utilized in this case. But you can see in this box down in the middle of the page, there's a range of values that are provided based on the various discount rates and growth rates. So if we just look at a 7% discount rate and a 5% growth rate, the value of the system using a discounted cash flow method was about $12.22 million. Okay. Then the next approach utilized on page number 12 is the market approach. Basically, market approach determines the value by comparing the selling utility with similar systems. Now, that approach is most valuable, most reliable with an active market, right? Providing enough comparable sales that can be independently verified through reliable sources. I mean, I would look at that almost like a method of, if any of us were going to go sell our home, we'd go out and get an appraisal, have an appraiser that would pull comps, right? Of homes that are in our area, homes that are a similar size, things like that. That's kind of what is done in the market approach. So in this case, our guys basically performed this analysis based on system size and publicly available data. And effectively what they utilized were systems in the state of Texas utilize a value of approximately $2,300 per connection. Now, what that means though is $2,300 per water and $2,300 per wastewater connection. So in y'all's case, really that works out to more or less $4,600 per your normal connections. And that provides an estimated market value on the market approach of about $18.7 million. And then moving to the last slide here, really, the last approach is just using the cost approach, which is basically the original cost less depreciation or book value of the system. Almost looks at basically just looking at the value of the system in your audit. And that also happened to provide a value of right at $18.7 million. So you can kind of look at the spectrum here of the values determined in these various valuations, looking at a value of the system anywhere between 12 million up to, nearly $19 million. Now, of course, there's a wide range of things that ultimately in the due diligence process of selling the asset can have a major swing in the value that somebody might be willing to pay for the system in terms of major capital spending, major upkeep that they're going to need to do if they purchase the system. So that would all, of course, impact and factor into the potential purchase price of that system. If you were to sell your system, debts that are owed related to that system have got to be paid off, of course, related to purchase price, things like that, which can all be factored in and done. Obviously there's some value in terms of being able to sell your system in terms of the upfront one-time purchase price the city could be able to receive for that. Of course, there's obviously some considerations you got to take into account. Some of those considerations include loss of local control from the standpoint of rate setting, loss of local control from the standpoint of just controlling or improving your system, right? If you felt like you needed to really enhance your system to attract new businesses or incoming housing, things like that, you would have to be in lockstep with whoever the buyer of that system is to make sure that those improvements are made to your system, and you're sort of beholden to them. And the other thing to think about is just because company A is the ultimate buyer of your system, That doesn't mean that company A is gonna be the owner of that system 5 years down the road. You may be left with a completely new partner at that point. So that's another thing you gotta keep in mind when you look at things like this. So, happy to answer any questions. I think you guys all know that Bob and I are, for the most part, bond experts. And, but we have a group, this presentation was largely placed together by our group that deals in these sorts of things more on a day-to-day basis. We bring them in as our experts. We're working together right now on a transaction for a Texas utility, not a water and sewer utility, but more of a gas system. And that process is ongoing. But that is something we're capable of doing. Would be happy to look at that, however you need us to. And if you've got questions that are beyond my expertise, I'm happy to bring in our experts or get those answers from our experts. From you guys.
When you look at other utilities like gas, things like that, there aren't any cities that own any gas plants, for instance.
Correct.
So I'm curious, so. You know, that's another thing to look at, it's, you know, water is just one utility, it's connected to electricity.
That's right.
Right.
Right. That's right. Yeah, obviously the number of those utilities that are truly owned by municipalities is very slim compared to those that own water sewer. That's right.
One of the questions I have is, I know, you know, you've got a sewer system right now. That we, here, the TCP standards, we've got to expand. So if we were to sell the system, would, I don't know how this would work with the utility commission, would, we're selling them a 2 million gallon a day plant. Would they be in a position to say, okay, you sold us a 2 million gallon a day plant, that's not what we provide, you need more than that, you're gonna go after and build this.
I think that would have to be part of the negotiation with them, but I believe that the whoever the buyer would still be under the requirements of TCP to provide the standard that's necessary for
The city limits.
Correct.
You just charge according.
They would charge accordingly. That's right.
We know right off the bat that we've got estimate right now, $300 million investment to expand capacity.
Well, it's, in that town. They said we have a plan. One guy said, no, you don't.
I know, but we still have.
Well, the issue there was not expanding. They weren't under enforcement to expand the plant. They were under enforcement to expand the plant.
I know, but they were.
Beyond it, it's not to see.
They were not expanding the plant, what they were doing, improving the quality of this.
They were saying they said it beyond its use for water.
Yeah.
And so we were gonna pay $90 million.
No, we were not. $90 million with a new plant off-site. It was $50 million. $50 million to make improvements to the plant such that it can meet the 2,500 and other.
They told us, when we went there, they told us they could no longer do improvements to that plant. They said that nothing was holding out anymore. Next to the.
Well, not just, I know, I get that. Yeah. No, I mean, and I don't want to rehash all this.
Yeah.
But remember, the original proposal was to expand on the existing plant. And it was like $45 million. But to just build a new plant in that same location was $50. So it made more sense to build a new plant for a little bit more than try to rehab the existing. I think that's what they were saying. It was not cost effective to keep putting money into the cities. That's, you gotta go back to 2017, the early conversation.
Instead of doing the whole thing, that's what you do, right? But you also have to have an operating mindset, those are the company mindset, so, I mean. Just that way, I mean, we've had 3 companies come in and look at our facility. For all 3 of them, and again, this is just what they said with a very quick look. Is that, you know, they feel that they wouldn't have to go during these points with the price of capacity, they would modify their existing system. And do
The original one, I think, was the bid was over on 35. The other thing would be the 91 million.
Well, but that's why we gotta get back to.
So my point is, an operating company looks like differently.
They can't change flows. When our flows are our flows. And, you know, by 30. Once we hit 90%, right, for consecutive 3 months, then we have a year's worth of data that's 90%.
Yeah, that's.
2 years worth of data that's 90%.
That's over there.
So that triggered the expansion.
And
And
the trigger, we have to do something.
We have to expand.
we have to expand.
No, they're telling us we have to, that's not like lunch.
At 75%, we have to enter engineering. At 90%, we have to break down on construction.
So have we gone in and we've been trying to, so what have we done to reduce our? What have we done to see how much groundwater? But have we done anything to reduce the sort of?
Yes, my smoke testing has reduced the flow to the plant. But these flows aren't rainwater flows. These are daily average flows. These are monthly flows.
You know that. We tested.
We're smoke testing now and everything is coming out.
It's coming up. I'm just saying, we've done some things, there's an operating company coming in. We've wasted a year, but we could have had a year where some other companies could come in and look at our system and say, yeah, you kind of use some stuff, but you don't have to go with next time. When we don't have a big hit, we're not going any plan, we're expanding the system. We're building a new plan on the side of using what. So, I mean, I know we've done some things, but
And there are other aspects to this too, besides business one. Currently, this plant, no matter what we do to it, will not meet future permit requirements. We already have monitoring for ammonia. And when the new permit comes out with limits for ammonia, we're gonna be like we were when they stuck us with copper permits that we wound up getting lowered. We're not gonna be able to meet those requirements. Our plant is old technology. It worked good when they didn't have the requirements that they're coming out with. Our next permit will not be a 2020 permit, it'll be a 1015, which lowers our limits even more for DOD and TSS.
so what did we work as a council person, I don't feel like we need to do every possibility. We did that really well with the. Because you got that don't have it. Usually we would sit down there. And I think we have. There's a lot, it's the two, it's the ones, and that we found these companies build the plants. We don't have an operating, it's ours, equipment like this to do it. I think for this council, it's our duty to work with every possibility before we can. So, I mean, we posted that whole year, but that's not our. thing. So we have 3 companies, 2 companies now, but they're in. At least we can just hear it. I think it's true. Not just so. I am not comfortable with spending $1 million or increasing our age, it's $46,000 a month. And not able to save it, even though they're. That's what. I mean, if they're saying 46,000 a month, we know it's. And maybe it's same, if they're not operating, and maybe we able to do less on the biblical side, but then they're going to be admin costs. Right. I mean, I just think if you don't understand what else to do, you're gonna.
The only thing I would add to that, and I see where you're coming from,
I don't disagree with you. But if we're looking to grow and we kick this can down the road, it's gonna cost us something.
So on that, so on the sizing basis, do you want the bids that the government inside?
Yeah. Yeah, the plan design that we
I
have.
don't know, I mean, just for the Lavaca, how are we gonna be able to inside? When you don't have a, I guess I'm just looking at the sizing basis, you know, why didn't you say brother, I'm not coming back? I mean, I just think, have we looked at physically, can you actually grow that? You know, without going outside city limits, and then, well, if you do that, you just put a little micro system. You don't need it necessarily, because you got all the pipelines that you have to put in and lift stations, you know, at some point, you can put cheaper distance to another satellites. So I'm looking, so I just don't really answer this question, but to me, that so you can't conceive of more than both. I mean, and certainly not in the next 10 years.
Okay, I think one thing to consider is that what is 75% of 3 million? That is 2.25. So I mean, if we put in a 3 million gallon a day plant, right now, sometimes we're running once we're running close to 2 million. The growth will be more consistently at 2.25, you're gonna start all over again, with engineering again. You know, and so, you know, and I don't.
When Blair Crossing fills in, we'll be at capacity. If Red State Retreat ever fills in, we'll be.
As you see, it requires you to have some mix.
And you do,
Part of that is.
not that this is gonna happen tomorrow, but remember our city, I mean, we have a lot of farmland down on the north side of town. That's, you know, if that were all developed in housing. That would easily.
So, does it make more sense to see the small time up there for those, for that development?
I mean,
How would you get all that into, you would have to put a new pipeline in, you have to put more lift stations in, I mean, it's not.
yeah, I mean, true, that's.
Yeah.
Lift station.
Plant is not like-
Lift station and a pipeline would be more cost effective than administrative fees and new operators to operate the satellite.
But we don't know that yet, because we haven't really explored the other option. Because, yeah, and, well, I don't know, it's like we did with GERA. We didn't know until we started looking, because they just wanted us to want the plant. They didn't want to upgrade, they told us when we toured that plant, that there was no fixing it. They told us there was no way. And that's when we had those 2 big old leaks out there, remember? That was at the right time for them, but we just kept on and kept on. I mean, I think as a city and as a council and as management, you know, did a good thing together. I think if we explore this, it'll be much better.
I mean, it's just exploring, it's not like, when I approached. People, asked them about, you know, what reasons for, I mean, they were roughly thinking we're still maybe in. But it's still, but again, that's what I'm saying, then we're back where we are in a few years. I mean, that's something to look at, it's still gonna be.
Engineering recommendations. Double something. Is there a way to keep seamlessly through these requirements and not expand it?
I'm not saying that's the wrong.
Yeah, they see some of these, I'll explain the approach that we had them do a phased approach cost and all that at once. With the phased approach, there was very little savings. And it hamstrung me like I am now. I can't shut any portion of my plant down at any time to do any kind of maintenance. Because I have no bypass, no secondary thing to operate. And it would do the same thing to me. I wouldn't have the capacity to shut down a train to operate and do maintenance. With the full-on expansion, I can shut down 2 trains and still have 2 trains all day. and it can do better maintenance. But the approach we took with this was not to help me with the maintenance. That was a big part of it, but it was cost. And as Jody said, there was only a $10 million savings in the phase the folks, because we gotta expand one way or the other. We're 2 million, if we went to 3 million, it was, I think it was.
And I mean, we, you know.
47, 48,000.
We can still go, you know,
And also some of the stuff in this design of the wastewater plant was put there because we were looking at the Department of Energy grant and they required high-tech stuff. So I can back some of that out. No, I can back the high-tech stuff out and go with just manual operation of things, still have my SCADA monitoring and everything, and save some money out of it. But
And remember, when we started this project, our initial report from the said.
So, can you you about just the line, the reason we can't do that?
because the capacity is not there.
That's what we're in violation, is capacity.
Well, I know, but I mean, is there a way to?
To reimplement the same parameters? No.
They tell you have to. This is talking
No,
about.
this is,
And so,
it's.
we took the approach to expand it, we didn't take the approach to modify it.
But.
Chapter 305, 126 of the Texas Administrative Code. So whenever the average daily or annual average flow reaches 90% of permitted average daily flow for 3 consecutive months, the committee shall obtain necessary authorization from the commission to commence construction of the necessary additional treatment and or collection facility. So this is, again, this is a capacity issue. This isn't a maintenance issue.
And to
We
my,
can't flow any more than 2 million gallons per
in my
day.
experience with TCU and this whole thing, like, you know, they first too, they are gonna, this is an opportunity for them to bring us into higher effluent standards. I mean, they don't like the fact of our current effluent standards because it's still ocean. We're upgrading the plant, expanding it, we're gonna have to meet the newer improvement.
I think we're one of 28 plants in the state that still has a 2020 version.
So what did the Hunterburg do you want to talk about? I bet you got a foundation of maybe the result, but I mean.
Well, to that, let me let Bessie, you know, let's educate ourselves a little bit on this water development board option and the training involved with that, and we still got some time.
Okay.
But this opportunity won't be here forever.
Right.
So, I think you said that they're going to need to sometime in 2025.
Yeah, we've got till August of 2025, but
We've got until August of 2025, the end of August of 2025.
and that would be to actually tell them, yes, we will move.
That would be to actually take down the loan from them. To sell bonds to them and have them, have those bonds delivered.
So
And
to close on it.
To
So we
close, to
would have
close.
to make,
We
decide.
would need to decide, given that what was provided to Texas Water Development Board as a financing mechanism for this was a certificate of obligation, which is very common for a city like Port Lavaca to utilize. Remember, a certificate of obligation requires a 45-day publication period. So really and truly to provide the 45-day publication period, do the initial rate lock and selling to the water board and then closing with the Attorney General's office, we probably need to be giving the notice of intent by the middle of June of 2025. Now, that being said, your award, I believe, was $39,150,000. That was the size of the application. Water board does not require that you take all $39,150,000, right? So if you decided between now and then that You could come up with some value engineer to a smaller dollar amount. You can close on a lower loan amount. That's possible too.
But we can't phase it, right? I mean.
You,
what I-
right, you need to, whatever you close
if I-
on,
If I need 3 million, but only 20 right now, I can't take 20.
Not under-
and 20.
not under this program.
Okay.
So
That's
they
right.
wouldn't give us 40 million, 2% less invested.
No. Federal government wouldn't need it. Unfortunately.
We don't wanna leave that,
But-
I mean, I'm not advocating. it.
Yeah.
I think, you know, if we get them to come in, yeah, everybody says it's a good idea to pursue, or it's just, we don't.
What?
We've never had that, we haven't had that. So, I mean, and just FYI, I mean, I have some issues with service, you know, with what we have, I mean, you know, these operational companies have. Well, they don't necessarily have a good traffic, but I mean, often we do, so I think, you know, there's other things that they bring to the table. As a large company, you know, with their capitalized, so they don't have to loan, buy up a lot of money. So you probably say you about that. Yeah, I mean, no discussion, actually, I can't do that, they don't have to. But they also have to dig it, right? So if a hurricane comes through and wipes this out, you know, they can drop in the state, so don't have to. Well, you don't have any, so this is something that, you know, and you know, scenarios for like the next so the other advantage is to have the large company operating system versus just us.
One thing to also consider, if they were at the borrow. They're borrowing in the tax. You're borrowing in the tax exempt market. And in this case, not only the tax exempt market, but the tax exempt market discounted by the award Texas Water Development Board. That discounts the rate of further about 1.25%. So
They had estimated that in our case, it's like $12 million.
a differential, sure. So, well, that's the savings between going with the water board versus regular tax exempt things. That the savings between going with the water board versus taxable is much more. Say we're doing $39,150,000 at a 3% rate with the water board. That's annual interest of about 1.1 million. You go to the taxable market, that interest then goes to about just the interest portion goes to 2.3. Like if this deal were to be taxable, the interest portion alone would be 2, not principal plus interest. So.
So they will be charging an interest to the consumer for the use of their money. Well, yeah, so it's the same either way. I mean, no, they have to do a profit. So I mean, there's other problems, they will charge you for the use of the money and their operation. And I mean, not be big with that.
No, I mean, and we haven't get enough, we're still looking for grant dollars. LJ, not LJ, SBR told me last week, the GLO had a new grant program, they just announced, and they were looking into it to see if there's any way that any of this would qualify. And there's an opportunity that we might be able to get some hazard mitigation money to help us, but for the things that would qualify would be an additional cost. So I don't know, by the time we're spending more, so we can use grant dollars, I don't know the end result for what it's saying.
Yeah.
I think one of the important things that we have to remember, one of the building contractors here in the city told me, said, the problem is you guys are reaching the max. I mean, you're reaching the limit on what you can do, and you need to do something, and you need to stop talking about it. And because you've got to do it, because if we're gonna build houses here, we want to make sure that there's gonna be the capacity and the plan and all like that. And he said, that's extremely crucial. And it's, I mean, heard that several times from him.
And the other thing I want to just bring up, you know, again, with this certification that we set this up, we do have the opportunity, in fact, we have the opportunity that tax dollars can help us pay for this, not exclusively insurance. And in my mind, you can justify that because of all that acreage out there that's ready for developer to come in. Those property owners are benefiting from this expansion because right now they can't sell it to developers to go build 1,000 because we don't have the capacity for that. But once we have it, then they can. And so there would be some benefit, and everybody's gonna benefit from growth. They can't grow without the super. Oh, okay, well, I'm just saying that we have the opportunity with this certificate of obligation, that this debt can be paid from both our sewer rates and bond. So for some of that could be paid with the increase in property tax. And in my mind, I think you can justify that because, you know, everybody is gonna benefit from growth. You know, existing companies and existing property are gonna benefit from growth, and we can't grow without sewer capacity. There's a lot of developable land, particularly in north and some of the south, you know, that I mean, there's a limit to what we can develop right now because of our sewer. And so with the expanding the plant, those property owners can see a benefit as well, because then their property can be more valuable for developers coming and building.
So really, if we do that, then I guess in my mind, I see that the property owners will then build it. But if we use tax dollars, when we just taking money away from streets.
No, it would be an additional tax. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you know, but I mean, but it would be additional INS. I mean, that would be, again, it's not the people that are, the ratepayers are still paying, the people that have water and sewer, they're gonna have to pay so much for us to pay this debt back. It can be only on the shoulders of those that have current sewer connections. And anybody that might have a future sewer connection, they're benefiting, but they're not having to pay into it right now until the future. Or if we allow some of the property tax money to go for it, then they can help pay into it too. Now, to remember, as we grow, our debt service is going to stay the same. As we grow, we have more people, customers to split this amount, then the rate will go down. It's just, we're not there. Unfortunately, we've got to do this before we've got the growth in order to have the growth.
Let's do something instead of talking it to death.
And another thing that I'm looking at, and I'm waiting on response back from the Texas Water Reuse Group, is there are grants to implement water reuse into the wastewater plant, which would drive our costs down even more. Because currently we're dumping near 2 million gallons of water into the bay that could be treated and put back into our water system to drive water rates. Increase our water capacity. It would cost money upfront. We'd have to borrow treated nuclear storage tank. Overall,
engineering, numbers and see if there's some ways to reduce it. If we can get it down to $20 million, it's but at $40 million, it's going to kill our I would suggest we use a second company
What kind of numbers are we talking about? Like how much is the water bill going to increase so much?
Well, okay, right now, just looking at the proposed debt service and the number of customers we have right now, they're projecting it's gonna take about $46 per customer to generate that much revenue in order to pay that debt service. Now, in theory, we have already increased it by $9. Remember, the year before last, we increased the sewer by $9 to help pay for that engineering for the year. But that's what we really need to want, and working to get a rate rate study, so we can look at all that, because we don't know right now that $9 is kind of getting eaten up in just operations, it may not really be there. And so, have somebody take a comprehensive look at everything, and come back again, looking at restructuring how we charge water and sewer anyway. Based upon meter zones and not just for the residential commercial, although, as I've said before, it's gonna help the residential customers some, because more of the cost is borne by those with the larger meter. The issue, however, is that most of our customers are residential, so it's not, it may say sense.
You need a approval from council to do that study, or can you do that one?
No, we are going out for our needs.
You're already.
To do a rate study. But
On the residential, so I'm looking at the water conservation. Plan. When it says our water loss is 40% of our total water usage, is that the right number?
That wasn't, it was, and you gotta remember, the last that was done, we didn't have accurate data because the meters were not accurate.
I guess I'm looking at,
And that's a year behind.
Yeah.
Well, it's over 25%, but I think in the packet, because whatever we report, they know, that they need it. But I mean, so I'm looking at improvements in service too, with the rough factor in the water company, we've got water leaks, like, for several years, that we have fixed, we've got the leaks, there's stuff that we just don't get fixed, the ground, which, that's still an issue, although it's better, all of what have you heard, but it's still, it's not fixed, but it's still have an issue, so.
Yeah, I spoke with him and when he had his one back up into his building, there was nothing we could do. Our lift station was full and overflowing manholes in the side, so it was. And at that point in that neighborhood, we walked back through there and there were clean out taps in backyards that were on.
And we, but again, and I think this is one of my concerns that I think, early on when we're looking at this, which is, it's not that we can't fix those kind of things, but we don't have the financial resources to do all that.
So, but we're gonna go $40 million into debt, get a loan, instead of looking at maybe some not plan. That makes sense to you. We're going to beat the dead here, even though we're getting a 12 million or whatever you said, that's the same.
Right, I mean, it's just, right.
Fact, it increases cost to consumers.
But we don't know that yet, we don't know that yet.
Every city that's ever done.
Well,
We just say, we only have a real small
What
percentage,
city has even done it?
because we only have like what's the percentage you can say? 5%.
5%.
5%, right? Well, how do you know that? You know, I don't, he doesn't, because it's not, it's so small. I mean, I just think we just need to look at it, it's like we did when GRA came, I think we did as a city of Hope. We did a great job looking not to spend.
But when you start selling your resources and selling your, when you start selling them, you don't know what's going to happen because you don't know what they're going to do as far as rates, prices, or whatever. And so what you've done is you allowed that to go to them, and then you no longer have any control over it. And I don't like that. But I think we've talked about this long enough. Let's do something.
Well, that's what we're talking about, doing something.
So I want the table of proving we're wrong and bring in, let's just bring two vendors and two companies in and talk to it. Let's start with it. If we're not agree, then,
You guys don't have to do anything at this point, this is our.
We have
This-
at least name the June.
So we need, we need to hit the ball rolling.
Water board, they don't.
No, we're working.
So Al and I talked about this, because we visited different customers, they're all companies are very happy, you know, trust me, all happy. So I wouldn't recommend a company, but you know, that's not the case, that, I mean, we need to do a lot of research, but if they're interested. There's different ways to approach it, I mean, I think we wanna see who's interested in this, I mean, they all want to just be solely, you know, negotiation, and not, here's a that, right, that's what they're for. But really what they do, the next step is to their contact and say, hey, come in and talk to us and explain what the philosophy is. You know, but I mean, that's where we need to start. Before we, I mean, we want.
So is it anybody, I mean, they've already been here, or is there other?
So Southwest Warren's here, oh, let's see, let's get more now, let's, yeah, I don't know, if I'm not. But I think they said that they, you know, they're not. So those two right now.
It was next era, and they pulled out of Mexico.
So the thing here is, the thing that's, reason next to it. That's probably, that's not. They did. Well. You can see only that you recover what the audit, what their audit says for the plan story, and they did a lot more, because they were speaking of assets. They couldn't leave over those spots. So we don't have to settle with, I mean, you can settle with, you know, something like this, but whatever the selling price is, you know, they do have to recover it, so we can keep that money back, and we use it as software. But we don't. Just talk with them. So there's a lot of things for putting in the stream.
And that depends on how they come in with their contract. I've seen this happen in Beeville, and Infomart really put Beeville over the barrel, because they give them all flowers and unicorns, and then when it comes down to actually upgrading the water plant, the wastewater plant, they said, here, you gotta pay us $30 million to do this upgrade, or you're in breach of contract.
I don't know if the contract was, but the way, when I talked to the PVC, they said that's capital improvement, they have to do, bring in, has to be operational. So it's going to apply to the. So I don't know what that was, that was in the original contract.
Well, I mean, I guess it's very good.
That's what I'm
to, because I don't, when we talked to them before, I don't know that it was, the urgency of expanding was, you know, I don't know, I wasn't on this part, so they recognize that, and even if we were, that number was 15 million. Whereas now the study, the detailed information is showing that 15 million is good.
Yeah, and next
we have
era
all that
recognized
information.
it should be expanded. Southwest Water is the only one that said they could do something, and even the.
We need to do something, I mean, I don't think either said we don't have to do anything.
Well, he tried saying it didn't have to expand, but the inspector from DCQ was like, you know, you have to expand it. And then one guy said they weren't interested in it. It was outside of that, wouldn't use what they want.
When did those contractors be out?
They wanted our collection system, not the connection.
Yeah, we, I mean, if we sold it, we'd sell the collection system and, yeah, and
Distribution, all that, we can go through the values. No, it was, yeah, because nobody wants to come in and. That's not the sort of workshop ready. So, and what are you saying about one of these contracts? Well, that's the thing, I mean, we can, you know, I can give you. You know, I mean, I listen to you right now, I mean, there's aqua water, and really, I mean, they're probably five. I mean, I don't know what you five, but.
But bottom line, so. The, in order to move forward with our development, we would have to make a decision by.
You gotta pull the trigger on providing
And
those
so
things you budget.
now, so. If we, so just look at options, so if we were considering this option. We wouldn't, I don't know that there's time, we wouldn't know anything for sure on that option by June, right? That's a year's process or so. For some plan.
Depends on how quickly you guys decide. If you guys decide that that's what you're gonna do and move quickly, I think you can move quickly as putting those
What I'm saying is
documentations.
that, you know, I mean,
But
ultimately, there is.
But until it's talking, and we don't know their timeline, so you're just doing the what if or the buts or if this.
Well, I just
That's
find
where
it
you can get to
to
now.
recognize we could. That if we lose this one regarding board, I mean, it's not the end of the world.
Well,
Could apply it better.
and I am not advocating. Yeah, I know I'm kind of not, but no,
So I guess when I'm here, though, yeah, we need to get on it and get.
I guarantee you, Undine will give us a letter of intent tomorrow. They would, which, no, but.
But I know from a legal standpoint, if we were going that way route, none of that would matter, we have to go through the whole.
you've got to go through the process with the regulators, DCQ.
So you have to renegotiate it. Well, I think the thought process there by when the Southwest Water makes it, if they were entering into an agreement with us, they would renegotiate with you, say, hey, look. This is gonna expand the timeline a little bit, but you know,
But there's a plan in place.
there's a plan in place. And these are PUC, you know, we've asked them about Aqua, we've asked them about Undine, we've asked them about NextEra, Southwest Water, these are all reputable companies that we deal with all the time, but. Undine is actually the one they like to use if they're firefighter, and they have a small plant that was just greater than somebody would come in real fast. And they actually get on that. Right, so, you know, we just have to get the current city of those companies. Well, I think we were just consideration workshop on.
Well, let me get some more.
Thank you.
Interesting.
You bet. Thank you.
Move we adjourn.
I've been called words.
You can't hear anybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Is there actually, I mean, is there any details behind those calculations that we can actually see? Because,
Oh, I'm sure I can get with,
okay,
yeah, for sure.
okay.
I'm sure. I'm fine.
Good there.
Thank y'all.
Yeah.
You're ready.
We adjourn right now. All those in favor?
I had it.
Y'all put on your calendars, October 29th. We're gonna have a evening meal. Dinner at the Bath Community Center in program to discuss. Our program, the recycling.
Kickoff for, curbside recycling. On the what day?
October 29th.
That's a Sunday.
For most of them.
Oh, no, September, okay, you're right.
October. Curbside recycling.
Yeah.
October. Let's see, is he gonna?
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then at the October 14th meeting, Mike Green will be here to give us a general background information on this. That's.
Are they gonna operate those recycling plants? Are they taking?
We'll go through all those options.
We don't have to decide. Well, we have a next, we have a meeting.
What?
We have a council meeting next
What
Monday,
time?
right?
What time, October 29th?
It is 6:30.
That's the fourth
Is
Monday.
there something else?
I have a hospital board meeting at 4.
That's when we have a workshop and stuff, but that's.
We don't have another meeting until the 14th unless something.
Praise God for the good luck, blessings, love.
Now you guys needed a break.